And so, picking it up again, the Apple computer and this VisiCalc computer really began to change things for the world, right? So, in addition, there was this IBM with its great reputation, right? Becomes part of this expanse, right? Uh, Frankly, IBM's reputation was so good that it's popular for people to say, hey, no one ever got fired from buying from IBM, right? And then there was this production through this VisiCalc that Apple had, Apple II, which was a spreadsheet calculator. Now businesses were really interested in jumping into this computer world. So these advances in the individual computer create a need in business, and now networking is going to be the next great development, right? So, people have been networking for a long time, right? Europe had been doing it since 1792. It was a visual system. And Congress stepped in around 1840 in the U.S. Here's that visual system in Europe. It was really an optical telegraph. It was a line, a series of stations, right, for the purpose of conveying textual information by means of visual signals, right? And somebody actually had to stay there in this semaphore telegraph, I think it was called. And they would use these pivoting arms and convey information directly to the next indicator point, right? And people would have to stay awake in those to transmit them forward. Kind of interesting, but it was early texting, I suppose. So then we're developing this network now, right? So we have this conversation turns to colors. So amber isn't just a color. Amber is actually a hard fossil resin. And the Greeks knew this. The Greeks discovered that if you rub amber, it becomes charged with a force, enabling it to attract light objects such as feathers and dried leaves, right? So in fact, the Greek word for amber is electron, which literally means electric, right? Or it means literally actually to be like amber. And so this guy named Volta, Alessandro Volta, he discovered that electricity can be generated chemically, is what he took from that, right? And using this principle, it resulted in the first battery all the way back in 1799. Then the Dutch took it a little further in the early 1800s and discovered that electrical current creates a magnetic field. So by 1830, in America, a guy named Joseph Henry rigs up the telegraph machine, right? And he's able to string wire around his classroom. And so we're getting there. How do we electronically move information? Now, this is very interesting. So by May of 1844, the Whig Party, right? Politics again. The Whig Party convention nominates this guy named Henry Clay. And his nomination was the first ever reported by telegraph, right? The line officially opened, though, a couple weeks later on May 24th with the Bible verse, "What hath God wrought?" which I think is interesting. It brings us back to our point in this chapter. Do we drive technology or does technology drive us? And so, of course, with the telegraph came the end of the Pony Express, which frankly only lasted for about maybe 30 years or so. But what a marvelous system that with the Pony Express you could finally get correspondence from one side of the country to the other in just a week or so, week and a half. Well, now that was ending with the telegraph. It was that marvelous supply chain system is being surpassed. And so enter then, past the telegraph, to Alexander Graham Bell, right? Bell, born in Scotland, focused on the telegraph, right? And the main problem he saw with the telegraph was that the wire could transmit only one message. So what he found was that harmonics or music use various frequencies, right? So a harmonic telegraph would assign then a different note to each message. So Bell knew the human voice later was made up of sounds, right? And he would apply this. He speculated that it may be possible to capture and transmit the human voice over a wire. Hey, was he right? Or was he right? Or was he right? So this led to telephones placed in homes. Again, the traditional boundaries between private family life and business and public life becoming blurred with technology. Is it driving us or are we driving it? So the telephone also eroded traditional hierarchies, right? Now the mayor wasn't just somebody removed from the people. They were somebody you could call and make a complaint to directly. So the phone is enabling these sort of things, right? And it even played a role in the presidential elections of 1896. So the first time the returns were transmitted directly into people's homes via the phone. Thousands of people spent the night with the phone glued to their ears listening to returns. Very interesting. So then by 1867, the first typewriter came into being, right? And it got a lot of attention, actually, not much at first, but when Mark Twain used it to write his book, Tom Sawyer, those are probably the first typewritten manuscript out there. Of course, you can see where this is going with input devices that would be utilized on the computer. Then there's the connection then we have from the telegraph to the telephone, now to radio, right? So there's a connection between our discussions about this electricity transmission and magnetism, right? And the mystery up to now was partly revealed in a published article demonstrating their important relationship by a Scottish physicist, right? And he predicted the existence of electromagnetic wave spreading at the velocity of light. And so Marconi took this article and used it to discover its practical use. This radio or wireless, right? We have a lot of wireless today. This radio or wireless was superior way to transmit the telegraph messages, right? And the radio receivers then were really like the first wireless access points, or WAPs, as they can be called. And in fact, the first massive, well-known radio broadcast was in 1938. Orson Welles, the day before Christmas Eve, did The War of the Worlds. It was basically a CBS radio broadcast. They're the CBS same ones that did the UNIVAC computer to publish the Eisenhower results. So anyhow, he was working with the Mercury Theater, which performed. It was a play, but it sounded like a bunch of news bulletins interrupted between nice music. Right? If you've ever been to a cyber tabletop exercise, that's what it reminds me of. A lot of scared people, quiet times interrupted by these news points. So anyhow, these efforts then turned to TV, right, which took us to the next level. Now you see where this is going, right, to the computer screen, right? So TV took it to the next level. We're broadcasting video now over wire, which actually began back in 1884. But the first electronic TV was 1927, unveiled in 1939 in New York City at the World's Fair. And by 1969, the whole world was watching Neil Armstrong land on the moon, right? Here's a picture of that moon landing now. So these advancements continued as discussed in the book around page 27, 28, 29, including the innovating of remote computing, right, becomes a thing. So now we have this, the Department of Defense gets involved, and they have ARPANET, right, Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. Remember we said we needed a network. It was the first wide area packet switching network, right? So it's taking these packets electronically and sharing them between these networks with distributed control of, and it was really one of the first networks to implement TCP/IP protocol, right, which we use to this day. Both technologies became the technical foundation, this networking and TCP/IP, and these packets to the foundation of the internet. So now the computer network could facilitate the exchange of programs and data, right? And this is how the packet switched network works, right? Fear of a nuclear attack led to the design that we have today, where the network should be decentralized, where every computer on the network would have the ability to make decisions about how the message traffic should be routed, right? And then a company named BBN in Boston, it also added this interface message processor, or IMP, right, that connected a computer to the telephone network. And so what that did is, in this slide, is on top you see the conventional switching network via the telephone, and the networks were not a good fit for this. So on the bottom what you see is a packet switching network. So a packet switched network, which is what we have today, is a type of communications network that groups and sends data in the form of small packets. It enables sending of that data or these network packets between the source and the destination node over the network, and that is shared between multiple users or applications, right? Email would fall into this, was a good use of this. In fact, fun fact, engineer Roy Tomlinson sent the first email in 1971, and he actually chose the @ symbol to separate the name of the sender from the address of the host computer. That's how we got that. So developments continue then. To me, this is the glory of the story and puts us where we are today with the network traffic. So you see, ARPA researchers anticipated the need to connect the ARPA with other networks later based on different designs. Remember, it's decentralized. So they developed a concept of an open architecture network in which individual networks can be quite different as long as they share common inter-networking architecture. So TCP/IP is born and is really today still a layer 4 traffic protocol. And the internet is a network of networks, actually, a network of networks that communicates using TCP/IP, born January 1st, 1983, to move these packets around. And it's a combination of layer 4 and layer 3. So TCP and its cousin UDP are very well-known protocols, and they exist at layer 4. TCP is going to deliver, favors data quality over speed, where UDP is going to favor speed over data quality. TCP is going to ensure your data gets there, UDP does not, right? In a layer 3 network, it transmits these data segments between the networks in the form of the packets, is how they work together. And then, of course, you can see page 30 for more on NSFnet. Some good info there. I refer you to the book. Then broadband. Broadband refers to this high-speed internet connection that you'll find from an internet service provider. So this is what makes feasible to move large packets, large files. And of course, Wi-Fi and broadband are not two mutually exclusive ways of accessing the internet. Wi-Fi can be used to take advantage of broadband. We have it in our own homes, right? Well, most of us have broadband coming in and then Wi-Fi coming out from there. So Wi-Fi is able to give people access to broadband internet without needing a wired connection, right? In the old days, you had to be physically wired, which brings us to the next slide, cell phones. Cell phones are made capable over these radio links, right? Back to that radio technology. Motorola gave us the first one in '73. And advances in those integrated circuits we talked about shrunk the size. And today we can carry smartphones around with us. Now they're actual computers, not just radio devices. So people living in areas that were never reached by wired phone service now have the ability to communicate through a SIM card or subscriber identity module SIM card. Each SIM card is considered a subscription. So we'll pick it up there for the final piece, is storage retrieval next.